incident occurred to a couple in my village. My village was a place that specialized in supplying medicinal herbs to the big city at the time, and the family was one of the households that specialized in growing valuable medicinal plants. The business was going well, but every month the husband needed to go to the big city to collect money, and before he left, the wife always went to the front door to see him off and instructed him on various matters. He was a man after all. It made the wife afraid that her husband would go to the city and get involved in bad things, but her husband consoled her and promised to return soon. So the wife just stood there holding her child and watching her husband leave for work. 3 days later, the husband returned from work unannounced, which surprised the wife. Business was good this month. They made a lot of money, so the husband bought his wife a bottle of high-end perfume. Despite the fact that she said it was expensive, the wife was overjoyed because her husband had always loved her unconditionally. When they got a large sum of money, he always bought gifts for her. A married couple's life had always been extremely happy for them so far. Because the husband had worked non-stop for 3 days and had driven a long distance to return, he was exhausted that night. So after dinner, his family turned off the lights and went to bed early. The wife was sleeping soundly when she heard something very annoying. It sounded like someone scratching, and it jolted her awake. When she turned to look at her husband, she noticed he was scratching furiously at his arm, scratching so hard that he almost tore his shirt, causing the wife to panic. She stopped him and called him to wake up. He said he felt itchy on his arm and couldn't help scratching it. The wife reasoned that it was itching because her husband was away from work and hadn't taken good bath, so she pulled out her husband's shirt to examine it. The wife exclaimed in surprise as soon as he pulled down his sleeve. The husband's itching wasn't due to a lack of hygiene. It was where his arm had developed a large number of red spots similar to a blister, but much more swollen and itchy, causing both of them to become worried. The husband went to the clinic near the house early the next morning to see what was wrong with him. Even the doctor was surprised when he saw it, because blisters had quickly grown larger and spread to almost the entire length of his right arm. Today they had swollen enormously. The doctor just touched it. It burst open and the inside was completely filled with thick pus. The doctor suspected an infectious disease. The couple had a big argument because of that doctor's diagnosis. The wife thought he met some girls or did dirty things to get such a serious infection, which made him very angry. But the husband flatly denied it, insisting that he had done nothing wrong behind his wife's back and that he had no idea why he was so sick. The wife continued to cry and blame, so the husband became very upset and went out, leaving his wife in the room, then going to a pub near his house alone, his arm still crazy itchy. He drank a lot of alcohol, partly because he was upset that his wife doubted him, and partly because he was sick with a strange disease. So the more he drank, the more he forgot the sadness. He drank from the bottle to bottle for an unknown amount of time. He didn't get up and leave until the pub closed. His gait was no longer stable at this point. Because he was completely out of his mind, the husband went home unconsciously. He slipped and fell into the dry rice fields below while walking on the dark dirt road. The road was not too high from the rice field, but he was unlucky enough to fall and break his leg. So he had to stay at home with his broken leg, and now the pustules had spread to almost his entire body. The broken leg was also very painful, and he couldn't move at all, allowed the itching and pain to rage freely. Because the wife was angry and suspected that he was having an affair, she did not take good care of him, so the wounds caused by the pustules were not cleaned and smelled worse by the day. The wife went to her mother's house one day and told her mother her story. She didn't forget to blame her husband, because the doctor had also said that this disease couldn't be cured and she was at a loss for what to do. Her mother, on the other hand, believed that because the husband had always been a kind and loving person, he couldn't be the type to interact with other women. On the contrary, being that sick in such a short period of time looked like to be bad luck or a curse. Hearing this, the wife began to reconsider everything, but she had no idea who she could turn to for help for her husband. Seeing this, her mother suggested a famous shaman in the next village who might be able to help her. The wife left early the next day to invite the shaman to her home and check on her husband's situation. The old shaman was taken aback when he saw the husband from a distance. His face seemed to know something. When he asked the wife if she dared to touch him, and if so, if she could assist him in sitting up and pulling the blanket off so he could see the entire body of the husband. The wife did not hesitate. She removed the blanket and assisted her husband in sitting against the wall. The shaman was even more alarmed now that he could see his entire body clearly, and he seemed to have confirmed what he had suspected. The shaman inquired about the husband's recent visits to temples or strange places to worship. The husband paused for a moment before responding.
Last week, when I went to the city to collect money, I stopped by a temple and worshipped a god.
That day, after receiving the money, the husband took some time to explore the city. By chance, he came across a temple to which a large number of people had come to pay their respects. The temple looked very spacious. He went to visit and pray for the next jobs to go well because he has many new plans at work, but he has never worshipped any gods before. However, when he arrived at the main hall, he discovered that there were too many people. He waited for quite a long time, but there was still no room for him to bow down. So he suddenly remembered that there was a road next to the main hall that led to another shrine. He decided to go there to have a look, but strangely, no one came to visit. But he believed that gods were gods, so he knelt and begged for what he desired. When the shaman heard this, he immediately asked him if he remembered the figure of that god, as he was most likely punished for kneeling on the ground. He sat back and explained that it was a god with a fierce face, a large snake wrapped around its arms and neck, and his feet stepping on many skulls. The shaman was taken aback by what he had just heard, and he explained that it was the god who represented the epidemic, and he was not a suitable god to beg for business, so he was punished. When they heard this, both husband and wife were terrified and worried about how to get rid of this punishment, so they begged the shaman to assist the husband in getting rid of his pain. The old shaman was eager to help, but he was also concerned that he would fail. First of all, they must prepare the offerings for an apology to that god. The next day, at the appointed auspicious hour, the husband knelt beneath the altar while the shaman wielded a wooden sword and danced around him. On the table were 3 offerings: a buffalo head, a pig head, and a goat head. The husband's condition improved the following day, and the pustules subsided as well. However, because the family's business did not go well after that, the shaman advised the husband to take a break from work for a while in order for the punishment to subside. So the wife went on her husband's behalf to complete the family's work. Although the pustules left many scars on the husband's face and body, after he recovered from the disease, he still considered himself fortunate to be cured and to be able to live his life.